Class 12. Welcome to the online tutorial sessions for economics. I am Avnash Lambert, your economics guru, and today we are going to start the new chapter, which is income determination and multiplier. Now, let's not waste the time and let's start the new chapter. Now, we will start this chapter with the topic determination of equilibrium of income, total output and employment. Now, in this theory, in this topic, the income and output and employment means the same thing. Suppose if I want to increase my production, it means my income is also going to increase. If I am going to increase the output, my production, then it's obvious that my income is also going to increase. Now, to produce more, I need more employment. So in that sense, in this theory, income, output and employment will be taken as same. And we are talking about the full employment, the term which we studied in the previous chapter. Now let's start today's topic. We are going to start determination of equilibrium of income, total output and employment. Now there are two approaches. There are two approaches for determining the equilibrium. Today in this video we are going to do the first approach, which is AD and AS approach. Now it means aggregate demand and aggregate supplies approach. Now to understand this, you need to take few things as assumptions. First, the price level in the economy is fixed. They are not going to any change the price. Nobody is going to change the prices. So the price level in the economy is fixed. Fine. This theory is applicable only under short run. I told you all the theories in the macroeconomics are going to take place in the short run. This chapter and the previous chapter, this is totally based on the short run term. Fine. So it's short run. There will be no changes in the fixed variables. Everything will be taken under the short run. Third one, no foreign trade. Our economy is a closed economy and we are not going to trade anything from the rest of the world. And the fourth one is there is no government. There is no government. So these are the theories, these are the assumptions which you need to understand before starting this topic. Now, we have understood the assumptions that there is price level in the economy is fixed and theory is applicable in the short run, no foreign trade and no government. Now, the explanation for that, what is this, how we determine? It means, the explanation means, equilibrium level of national income is determined by that point where aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate supply. Basically, what this explanation is trying to say, that the equilibrium is achieved only at that point where aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal to each other. So equilibrium level of national income or national income, both are same thing. Fine. Because in the macroeconomics you are talking about the whole economy's income. Fine. So that is why national income or income are both the thing, are same thing. So equilibrium level of national income is determined by the point where aggregate demand is equivalent to the aggregate supply. Now, symbolically, this equilibrium condition means to say that the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Right? Now, in the previous chapter, you learned the formula of aggregate demand. What was the formula of aggregate demand? It was C plus I, means consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure. So, we can write it as C plus I is equal to, now aggregate supply also means income, national income. I told you that aggregate supply means national income, or it can be also written as C plus S. You remember the formula, aggregate supply is equal to C plus S, or you can write it as Y. So we can write it as Y is equal to C plus I. So when we are talking about equilibrium, symbolically we say that y is equal to C plus I. C plus I means aggregate demand and aggregate supply means national income. So Y is equal to C plus I. That will be your equilibrium condition symbolically. Now, let's come to the schedule. Now, in the examinations, you need to explain this topic with the help of diagram and a schedule. Now, this schedule is very easy. It's very easy. Now, as you already know, we are taking the income level 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, like we always do. Fine. Now, do you remember the consumption which we took in the previous videos? I remember the consumption which I took was 60. At 0 level of income, I took 60 as my consumption. If you remember, fine, I have taken 60 as the consumption. Now, you already know that the consumption increases at a constant rate. The graph is linear because it increases at a constant rate. So, I am going to increase the consumption according to the income level in a constant rate. Fine. So, I am taking a 70. There is an increase in the consumption every time by 70. So, 70 plus 60, it will be 130. 130 plus 70, again 200. 270. 340. 410 and 480. These will be your consumptions. Fine. Now, you have to make two things and rest of the things you can do it by yourself. Fine. Now, savings. At 0 level of income, your consumption is 60. It means your this savings is minus 60. At 100 level of income, your consumption is 130. It means 30 rupees are extra which you took from your savings, previous savings, that is minus 30. That's why your saving is in minus. Your income and consumption are equal. It means there is 0 saving. Your income is 300, consumption is 270. It means you have saved 30. Again, you have saved 60. Again, it's 90, and again it's 120. So these are your savings. Now, investment. I told you that under this theory, under the Keynes theory, investments which you take are autonomous investments, means they are equal at every level of income. So I am taking 60 as my investments. I told you to take the investments and consumption equal so that you will be having some easiness while preparing the diagram. So I am taking autonomous consumption as 60. Fine. So this is your autonomous investments or investments. Now, aggregate demand. You need to calculate the aggregate demand now. You know the formula. It is C plus I. C plus I, that is 120. C plus I, that is 190. C plus I, that is 260. C plus I, it means 330. C plus I, that is 400. C plus I, that is 470. And the last 480 plus 60, it will be 540. Now, likewise, you have to calculate the value of aggregate supply, which is C plus S. 60 plus minus 60, it means 0. 130 plus minus 30, it means 100. 200 plus 0, 200. 270 plus 30, 300. 340 plus 60, 400. 410 plus 90, 500. And 480 plus 120, it means 600. So this is your schedule which you are going to make with the help of income and consumption. You already know the income level 0, 100 to 600, and consumption you can take any amount, but make sure that you increase it in a constant rate. And likewise saving you can calculate with the help of income minus consumption, you get the savings, and in investments you have to take the autonomous, try to use the number which is equivalent to the zero level of consumption, and likewise you can calculate the aggregate demand with the help of C plus I and aggregate supply with the help of C plus S, and that's how you're going to make your schedule. Now it's time for the diagram. Let's start with the diagram. Now to show the equilibrium level of income, total output and employment, you need to show that aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Now you will show here in the form of the curve that aggregate demand curve is equal to the aggregate supply curve. Now you already know that aggregate supply is equal to Y, and the income curve is always in the 45 degree. You know that. So draw a 45 degree line. Draw a 45 degree line. Mine is not 45 degree, but you will make a 45 degree line because I don't have space, so I have tilted much. Fine. So it's a 45 degree line. Fine. 45 degree line. So this is your aggregate supply curve. 45 degree line. Fine, this is your 45 degree line. Now you need to draw the aggregate demand curve. Now you already know that the aggregate demand curve always starts from above the origin. At zero level of income, the aggregate demand is always above the origin. At zero level of income, the aggregate demand is 120. The aggregate demand is 120. So you will take a point which is 120. You have to draw an aggregate demand curve which will be from point 120 and draw a straight line. This is your aggregate demand curve. Fine, from 120 aggregate demand 120, you have started your aggregate demand curve, and there will be one point where the aggregate demand and aggregate supply will be intersecting each other. Name it point E. Now at point E, the aggregate demand and aggregate supply are intersecting. It means that at point E, the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Now see what is the level of income at that point E. The level of income at point E is 400. It means when the income is 400, at that point aggregate demand will be equal to aggregate supply. See, at level 400 of income, the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Isn't it? 400 is equal to 400. It's the same point E where the aggregate demand is equal to the aggregate supply. I hope you have understood. Now let's come to the further topic. There are two more scenarios of the equilibrium. There is one point E. At 400 level of income, you get the equilibrium. So make it point Y. Mark this point as Y. Fine. Now this is this portion. What about this side and what about this side? There are two other sides also. This is the equilibrium. And what about this area and what about this area? Fine. Let's talk about this portion first. The right hand portion first. Suppose I am taking any point of level of income. Suppose I am taking this point. Fine. At this point, name it any. I have marked it as point B. Fine. Now at point B, at 600 level of income, there is a situation where aggregate supply is more than aggregate demand. See, aggregate supply curve is above the aggregate demand curve. Fine. So this is a situation where the aggregate demand the aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, or you can say that aggregate supply is more than aggregate demand. Now, if aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, it is a situation of excess supply. It means in the economy, the producers are ready to produce more goods in comparison to the demand of the consumers. Suppose, as a consumer, we are saying that we need 5 boxes, but the producers are saying no, we are ready to serve 8 boxes. We are going to produce 3 more boxes. So this is the situation of excess supply. This you have studied in your microeconomics. Fine, excess supply. The producers are planning to produce more goods in comparison to the goods which are being demanded by the consumers. So it is a situation of excess supply. Now there will be unplanned increase in the stock of goods. They haven't planned to increase the production, but there is an unplanned increase in the stock of goods. They have not planned to increase their goods, but due to coincidence, there is a situation where they are producing more and the consumers are demanding less. So there is an increase in the stock of goods. There is an unplanned increase in the stock of goods. The producers are having lots of stock of goods. As excess inventories accumulated, inventories means stock of goods, closing stock minus opening stock, the stock which is left with the company which has not been sold. The excess inventories accumulated means jama hona. When the excess inventories, when the stock of goods is accumulated, firms will reduce the factors of production, because they already have lots of excess stock, so they don't have to produce more. Therefore, the factors of production like land, labor, capital, they will reduce it. They will reduce it to cut down the production. Because they have excess production already, they have the excess stock, so they will reduce the factors of production to cut down the production. I hope I am very clear to it. Now, this will reduce. Now, what will be the effect of this point? It will reduce the income, output and employment from point OB to OY. When the producers will cut down their production, this will reduce their income, because now they are producing less. If you are producing less, then your income will decrease. Your employment level, you have to remove some of your employees because you don't need them now, because you have already excess supply. So there will be a reduce in the income, your production and the employment. So before you were producing this much amount of, you were producing OB level of production. But now, because you have reduced your factors of production, now you will be only producing OY level of, this is Y, OY level of production. So this will reduce the income from OB to OY. Understood? And the stability of equilibrium will be restored at point E, because now you are producing OY. They will very slowly they will decrease their production up to the point Y, and at point Y there will be equilibrium at point E, and the stability in the equilibrium will be restored at point E. Understood? Now, the last topic for today is if aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Here, this was the scenario where aggregate demand was less than aggregate supply. Now, there is an opposite scenario. Right here, this portion, the left side. Suppose I am taking any point. I am taking this point. Name it point A. Fine. Now, at this point of income, at this level of income, I have taken 200. Fine. At 200 level of income at point A, there is a scenario where aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. See, this aggregate demand is above the aggregate supply curve. So therefore aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Fine. Now it is a situation of excess demand. It means the producers are producing less in comparison to the demand of the consumers. We the consumers are asking, we are demanding to, we are saying that we are going to buy 10 boxes of your good. But the producers are saying no, we can produce only 5 boxes. So here is the situation of excess demand, where the aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. The consumers are planning to buy more, but the producers are planning to produce less in comparison to the demand of the consumers. Now, in this scenario, the producer will suffer losses of what? Of unfulfilled demand. They could have earned more if they had produced more, but they haven't produced in comparison to the actual level of the aggregate demand. Therefore, they will suffer losses of unfulfilled demand, which they could have earned, but they haven't because of the unfulfilled demand. That is, there is unplanned decrease in the stock of good. Their stock of good is little. There is decrease in the stock of good. Therefore, they will suffer some losses. I am saying that I want this much goods, and the producer is saying no, we are producing this much. So there is a gap. That difference is the loss, and to avoid this loss, the producer will expand the production. To expand the production, they will be increasing more output, they will be increasing more income. More output means more income, and to earn more income, you need to employ more people. Your employment will increase. So they will be hiring more factors of production. Now this will increase the output slowly and slowly from OA to OY. First, the total level of production was, the output was OA, this much. But now, as you have increased your output, your income, your employment, this level of production will increase to OY, from OA to OY. And the stability of the equilibrium will be restored at point E. When you will reach at point Y, there will be equilibrium at point E. So, this is your if AD is more than AS and if AD is less than AS. Now students, I want you all to take a neat and clean screenshot so that you can complete your notes. Now students, take a screenshot and do complete your notes by today only. Now students, that's all for this video. Stay home, stay safe, and see you soon.